Welcome to Doing Business the Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business in life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and we created this show for you because we want everyone to learn how to do business in life to make an impact in the world. I want you guys to think about who you're going to serve today or tomorrow and what kind of impact are you going to leave when you serve. And I'm excited for my guest. And by the way, you see a new look. I've just added glasses. Some of you go, is that really Steve Ramona? It is me, just a different look. And me and Chris are talking about in the green room, and it was a great conversation. But you guys all know I'm a networking fiend. I ran 6 of them. A lot of you that listen have been part of those groups. So I'm a big fan and a number one cheerleader for networking groups, if done right. And my guest here today is doing it just right. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's start. Why did you build a networking group? There's thousands out there.
Yes, I started the networking group because networking is not my natural habitat. It's not something that I was comfortable with. And in fact, it was the exact opposite. I was very shy and introverted my whole life and found the world of networking in 2012 and saw greater opportunities for growing business instead of the traditional, just cranking numbers and chasing people and, following up till they buy or die type stuff. And I saw a lot more relational, authentic way to grow business. And when I started the networking group, it was initially to help people like myself. And it was a great way to be able to meet other people that normally wouldn't meet with me if I was just going straight for a sales appointment. And that's really what started it. And it took off from there.
And I know a lot of people have networking groups. I've been part of them. I get pitched all the time. You have a unique mission and desire for and passion for this networking group. What is that?
Yeah, we believe that we are all connected. Diversity is our strength, and that we are better together. And so we look at a lot larger picture of networking. We're all we all network because we have businesses we want to grow, or perhaps people are looking for a job, or maybe they run a nonprofit and looking for new donors or new volunteers. But everyone has a need. They all need something. But what we found is that by focusing on relationships and creating community, it leads to all of those referrals in a lot more organic way, to where it's not forced or required, but it's just something that naturally happens through the relationships that are built.
And I love that because I tell people and that's why you're on this podcast, Doing Business with a Servant's Heart, serve before you sell. And it should be say serve, build relationships. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a lost art, and more people are starting to do it, but not enough. So that leads to impact. I mentioned on my show, I want to make an impact. I love your question. Who has made the greatest impact for you in your career?
Yeah, greatest impact is definitely my dad. He's a first generation here in the United States from the Philippines and started with nothing. But that's where I learned the whole entrepreneurial mindset was from him. Just seeing what he did, and he would where he started as an aircraft mechanic, but started when he came to the U.S. was working on cars at dealerships. So he's working at different automotive places. Eventually had his own business and grew that and started doing full restorations of the classic Mustangs and Shelby Mustangs. So very rare, the high performance version of Mustangs back in the day. And he would do all of them as well, but that was his specialty. So I grew up in that environment, and I learned the work ethic, and I learned to take some calculated risks. And I just saw the way he did business. And I didn't realize when I was growing up with him and all that stuff, that I didn't realize that he was networking. But oftentimes he would just go to parties and birthday parties and different gatherings, and he would leave with business. And I never got it back then. He didn't explain that to me. It's just what he did. In hindsight, I realized that he was actually networking. It wasn't a networking event, but just because people there knew what he was, and they say, hey, this is, Ben, he does all the work on my car. It's like, oh, I need something on my car. Can you take a look at my car? And then he would have a job. So I didn't realize that all this stuff was being instilled in me back then until many years after even starting my networking journey. But yeah, it's definitely my dad that made the biggest impact in work ethic and serving others, and the way he treated people, the way he always went above and beyond in helping with the cars. If he saw something that was, close to what he was working on and he could fix it and it didn't make a big deal, he would just do it and not charge the customer for it. And that's what kept them busy, and people kept coming back. So it's completely different from what we usually experience in that industry.
Yeah.
But I could see the difference, and, definitely made an impact on me.
It's a great story. What a great mentor and inspiration. Yeah, and my dad was the same way, so I really resonate in my heart is pattering, right? Pitter pattering right now, because the same thing. My dad was an entrepreneur as well, a contractor. He worked a lot, but he always made sure family came to my games and things. And sounds like your dad did the same thing. But you brought up something interesting, how networking has changed. You're right. In the 60s and 70s, my parents had parties. Sounds like your dad went to parties. And we still have parties today where we
Mhm.
go, hey, what's that first question? Hey, Chris, nice to meet you. What do you do? Hey, Steve, great to meet you. What do you do? How do you tell people to do that or help them with that?
Yeah, oftentimes people want to know how to get started. It's intimidating. Just the idea of networking can be intimidating because it can feel like you're walking into a good old boys club or something, or where everyone's already buddies. And oftentimes it feels like that. That's what I would feel like many times when I go into an event and I don't know anyone. It's like, it's like, did I show up at the right place? Everyone seems to be paired up or in little groups, and I don't want to interrupt. It looks like they're all having conversations already. But I think the key is to when starting conversation is to just, as soon as possible, to get it to where you can talk about something that is non-business related. So usually it starts with, name, rank, serial number, what's your name, what do you do? And that's cool. That's what people expect. But as soon as possible, to be able to shift it to a more personal conversation, and that's where the connection is actually made. And I have a number of people, because they know my background, and they ask me, I'm intimidated by this. What do I do? And I just guide them to have a conversation and to ask genuine questions as follow-ups to their first question. So for example, if we're having conversation and we meet at a certain city, and we say, where's your business? Is it your business based out of this area? And they know it's actually here. And, oh, did you grow up here? Or did you grow up in that city? And then location is a really easy way to transition into personal. Like, did you grow up here, or where did you grow up? And, oh, I actually grew up in Los Angeles. Well, what brought you to Ohio from Los Angeles? So, well, actually I moved because of family, or, so it just starts a conversation to where you're getting to know the person. But that's where the connections are made. We rarely connect with others because of profession. It's usually the opposite. Like, we usually find reasons why we don't need to talk to each other any further. And oftentimes I'll use a realtor as an example, because
Mhm.
everyone knows like probably a dozen realtors. But the thing is, who's going to be remembered when it's time for somebody that wants to buy or sell a house? The person that's either most recent, the person that's made the most impact, or they've served you the most, or the person that you feel most connected with, meaning that you have something in common with them, that you see them on your social, or you converse frequently. So the key is to get to that personal level rather than a business level, because the business level, we're conditioned, and subconsciously we're conditioned to sift and sort through why we shouldn't have to stay in touch with somebody, because that's part of our sales training, is like sifting and sorting, prospecting mode. Who's going to be a good prospect? Do they have the finances? Could they be a potential customer? If not, let's go to the next person. Let's go to the next person. Now, if everyone does that, if we duplicate what we do personally and everyone does that, does it improve or hurt the overall community? It actually hurts, because we're all not wanting to talk to each other because we don't see a reason to. But once you get to know that person, it's a reason to, we don't put people in a cold bin or a cold folder or not interested folder. Literally everyone we run across gets added to our community. And the more people added to our community, the more resources we have, the more resources we have, the more influence we have. And that's really what we're looking for. We're looking to connect the dots and be connectors for each other, and not sellers to each other.
Yeah, that's questions. And I forgot the other, but the question is a big thing. It's so simple. Just ask a question. It could be the dumbest question. How many dogs do you have? I don't have a
Mhm.
dog. Oh, why? And then it just leads on. So well said. Here's what I get a lot, Chris, and I'm sure you probably do. What do I do when I'm at an event and the people don't engage with me? Say I'm talking to somebody, they don't answer my questions. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think if they don't answer the questions, they're probably talking about their business and trying to sell. And I think that's where, either you can shape it, or if they're just going to stay in pitch mode, then it's time to wrap up and maybe reconvene another time. So it depends, because I know there's some people that were known for just like going into pitches for like 45 minutes. And then with a small group of us, we're like, okay, if he corners you, here's a signal. And we like have a signal, go and say,
Yeah.
hey, let me introduce you to somebody and take them somewhere else. So there's sometimes people just don't have that awareness. But I think usually they do it because they don't know any different. And that's where I have
Right.
an issue with networking as a whole, is that people are thrown into these situations and don't know. Like I know I did that because I didn't know any better. I went in, and
Mhm.
if somebody was listening, I was pitching because that was my shot, right? But like if this is your shot, you don't know how to stay in touch with them. And that's why as I learned how to network, I realized that I have many more opportunities to have a conversation with them because I'm able to build a relationship on the front end. I don't need to even talk business on the front end. I could spend the whole time listening and learning about them. So it's not as much of a concern. So even in that situation, if they're talking and they're not answering my questions, I'll let them talk, and I might steer it to alert to get them to talk more about what they want to talk about, obviously. So they're talking about their business, which is usually what it is. I'll ask them questions about that because obviously that's what's important to them. So subconsciously, they kind of like me a lot more because I'm actually interested in what they're interested in talking about, and I'm not overly concerned with sharing myself. Now, I'll still cut it off at certain points. I'll say, I look forward to learning more and I'd love to stay in touch. Are you on LinkedIn, or what's the best way to stay in touch with each other? And we could set up another time. I want to give you a chance to meet other people as well. What's the best way for us to stay in touch? So it's kind of like a polite way of ending it and implying that's the end. Or do you have a business card? I'd love to stay in touch with you. Or are you on LinkedIn? Or are you on Facebook? Which one do you use? So it's a great natural ending to that conversation. But I would try to learn as much as I can, because if somebody else is talking, that's actually better for me in a way, because you're learning more about people. As long as they're not just like, nonstop rambling about
Right.
sports or the
Yeah.
weather or something that there's no value add to it.
Repeating themselves, telling the
Yeah.
same story. I just was on a call a few weeks ago. Guy said the same story 5 times in a 30-minute call. I'm like, okay. And never asked about me. And that's okay. I gave him some value, which I always tell people: bring value, don't judge. Bring value though, because your universe changes. It may not change with that person, but it changes with the universe. And that leads to this incredible question, Chris. And kudos to you. Our next generation,
Mhm.
communication skills are changing because of the phone, the internet, social media, all that. How do we help them?
Yeah, I have an interesting take on next generation communications. And often, first of all, the next generation is always the lost generation. It's just how it's always going to be, I think.
Yep.
I think we were the lost generation to our parents and their parents and grandparents. They were like, oh, this is lost generation. And for me, it was like 80s and 90s kids, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the next generation actually does a very good job of communicating, but it's not in the same way that we do it. So often we think, oh, they don't know how to have face to face. They can't sit at a dinner table without being on their phone. Well, I say this too, is partially because that's part us. Like I could be in the room with my family and we'll all be on our phones. And I'm okay with it because we're laughing and we're like sharing funny videos with each other, but we're sitting together. So when we would sit together, or if we're at dining table, we'd eat, we'd talk a little bit, but that's just like what's fun for us. But for the next generation, they're texting. So if you think about it, they're communicating more than we are. They just communicate in a different way. And just because it's like, hey, you should write cursive. You shouldn't be typing and texting stuff. That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like the face-to-face, it's not as easy to do as what you and I are doing right now. So for me
Yep.
to travel to you, or you to travel to me, or meet somewhere in the middle, then it's inconvenient for both of us. That's the old-fashioned way. And I think we're doing this in a new way, which is on Zoom and video broadcast. Uh, that's how I look at the next generation. So as far as communication, I think they communicate a lot more than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
It's just not in the way that we do it. They even have their own acronyms and language and things that we don't even understand. So I think they're doing it. But as far as it relates to growing business, I think where they could benefit is seeing how they can all work together to be able to create something that they couldn't do individually, to where they can work together. So for example, we have with one of our chapters is a young professionals chapter. And the reason why that's appealing is because many of them feel intimidated to walk into our world, so to
Yeah.
speak, because networking is seen as more of like a old person sport, but they're doing it in a lot more fun way. They might do more activity based, maybe different timing and different venues instead of a conference table, which might seem boring to them. they might want to do it at an arcade or at a restaurant, room, something like that. That's a little bit, I don't know, something a little bit more fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as helping the next generation, I think they already have a lot of the tools. They're very well connected, very, very well connected. So if you think about it, they have access to thousands or tens of thousands of people that we never had growing up. I mean, if we had like 50 people in our circle, that's pretty good. You have a couple hundred, that's pretty good. 200 to them is like a joke. I mean, that's just a fraction of the
That's a
life
text group. Hey, I got a
yeah,
text group. There's 200 people, right?
yeah, there's 200 on that. So I think we could learn as much from them as they can learn from us about the connection. But I think they do better than we give them credit for.
I love what you're saying because I'll give you a quick story. My business partner is in his early 30s. He loves texting. I'm 62. I've been emailing and been very successful for 40 years. So we have to, and I text him because that's what he wants. For me, he knows to email or to text, but meet people where they're at, wherever they are. Because my wife loves texting. She'll get mad at me saying that, but she had 30,000 emails. She just doesn't check her emails. It's just not how she communicates. And I love that you said that. We shouldn't judge. We should go to where they're at. So thank you, Chris. And audience, that's a huge lesson. Huge, huge lesson. Now, that leads to this. This is something I talk about all the time and I keynote speak about is balance in work and life because they fall between each other. They come together. CEO's going through a divorce. It's going to affect, his business. Business is going broke. It's going to affect his family. So how do you do it?
Yeah, I think many years ago, I just stopped trying to create balance and instead seek to create synergy and harmony in between the two. So for example, with my kids are grown now, but I feel like I've been there for everything that was important in their lives up until now where they've been on their own for years now. But I think it's all about creating harmony to where they can live together because you're right, it's hard to separate. And I think that creates an added challenge to divide it and try to balance it because it's either on this side or this side. That's what balance is. Which one, business or family? It's like, well, what if you could do both? And example, we even created one event. One of our hosts' name is Henry, where he's running a connected fit event. And part of the vision for that chapter is to blend physical activity, right? Because that's something that we need to do personally. Still need a network, which is another thing that takes time. That's what we need to do for our business. And then spending time with family. So those three things are kind of mutually exclusive for most people. So we created what's called Connected Fit, where you could do activity-based, family-friendly events to where you could still network and there's still that intentionality about connecting. And that's the difference between just a regular club event or just hanging out with people like doing the same activity like bike riding or hiking or playing pickleball is one of his favorite. But now you could bring the whole family out. And we had people bring their kids out. They could play together. We could still meet each other, have a little short time of introductions and exchange contact information, which wouldn't happen at a regular pickleball game. So I think it's more, for me, it's more about creating harmony between all of those. And my wife works with me in the business. So we work together. So that helps a lot now. Years ago, she was, had a separate job and then, it was pretty much me in the business. And now we work together for the last several years. And the kids also worked with us in the business, when they were coming up through the thing. So they all know everything that we do pretty much. And then we just let them take their own paths. And then wherever, if they want to come back and they, want to do what we do, either way, they have the training and they know how to network and they know how to build community. But, we leave it up to them to decide. But as far as all of that goes, I think it's all about not trying to balance because I think that creates more of an opposition. Like, do you want to go to my game or do you want to have this business call? It's like, well, I need to have a business call so I can afford to put you in these sports. And I think it's trying to create, both where you could synergize both and bring both in together. So that's what we did for us. Everyone's situation is going to be slightly different or significantly different, but depending on the structure of their household and their relationships that they currently have. And there's a lot of different elements that come into play. So it's not super easy, but I think whenever we can find ways to create harmony versus balance, I think that's the key and the starting point to better relationships in the household, which, like you said, it is going to affect business and business is going to affect the household. So there's really not an easy way to separate them anyway.
Harmony is such a great word. I'm glad you said that because it's easily seems simple, but it's not. And I learned from a very wealthy guy. He does 100 million a year in his business. He's got 7 kids. I'm like, holy mackerel. He goes, I don't have to take that business call when I'm at my kid's football game. It can wait an hour or two or a text. Unless it's life or death, Steve, he says, family comes first when I'm in front of family. And I'll, maybe I have to do it at 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday, but my wife's asleep or she's with the kids or kids are asleep, whatever. But we put too much emphasis on our business and we have to do this. And I've done it many times. Well, I need to do this. And my wife said, no, let's go do fun. You can handle it. And never one time it hurt my business ever. So it's great that you said that. Now it's a servant's heart podcast. So I'd be remiss not to ask you this. What's the characteristics in your mind of a servant leader?
Yeah, a servant leader to me is somebody who puts others before their own needs. I truly believe that. And it's something that's opposite of what's frequently taught, which are ideas and concepts like if it's to be, it's up to me, or look out for number one. That kind of stuff is kind of like a us versus them mentality, like everyone's out to get you. And the reality is that they're not. The reality is that people are focused, that people have a need.
Yeah.
And if we focus on their needs, we get served in the same way. Well, first of all, just a true servant's heart serves, and that's already the reward. Just the fact that they're able to serve. It's not about the reciprocity, even though there's a very good chance of it. That's not the reason a servant leader does it. They already know they may not ever get paid in return, and they don't even expect to be paid in return. It's just about who they are. So it's not a tactic or a strategy or a gimmick. It's something that's truly like it's a servant's heart. It's truly from the heart, and it's just about what somebody is made of. It's part of their DNA. It's part of their fiber, their being, to serve. And I think that's something that you can't fake for very long. You could fake it for maybe 2 weeks, but it really has to be there so for somebody who naturally has a servant's heart, like I did, but I struggled in sales for so many years because I tried to be a salesperson. I tried to be a successful salesperson. And the big switch that flipped when I started networking was just accepting that I love serving people. And that's where everything turned around for me, is that I just served and served and served. And I just started getting more in return. I started getting more introductions. I started getting people referring me, more people that just wanted to hang around me and to spend time together. And people weren't running away from me and avoiding my calls or my emails or my text messages. And we just started creating community. And so we're now scaling that and helping other people do that because there's not enough of it happening. And we need to be the catalyst. So we serve, but we want to be able to empower other people to see that you can make a living just serving others, because sometimes they think, okay, that's great to serve, but how am I going to pay my bills? The reality is that this is the best way to pay your bills is when you serve other people. You have an abundance, and if there ever is a desperate need at some point, that's whether you cause it or not, or something that came upon you, you have people that you can fall back on. You have people that you can help, that can help you in that time of need simply by serving when we're not in need. Otherwise it's a transaction. I help you, you help me. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's a trade, that's a transaction. But instead, we're just helping serve others. And it goes to the whole philosophy that we live in a world of abundance rather than scarcity. And if we do that, I think that's a part of the servant's heart too. Servant leader's heart is that we believe there's plenty to go around, and there's no shortage. There's not even competition. The competition can actually be our friends that drive us to be better.
Yeah. Competition is collaboration more than competition. And it's interesting. I love what you said, Chris. That's why you're going to be so successful in your networking, because they're service before sales. And I always say, I came with this, today's money is short term, tomorrow's money is long term. And that's what you're saying. Serve, serve, serve. And then a month later, you get that connection that might pay you a lot of money or connect you with 5 high-end, high-level whatevers. It's not the how, when, or where when you serve. It's just do it. It's like brushing your teeth. We should brush our teeth every day. Most of us do. That's what serving should be. It should be, I meet Chris, and we both did it when we met. We both served each other. It was and we connected. That's why you're on the show. So I'm going off on this because I think it's so important in business to get back to this. I think when our parents, your dad, my dad, were doing business, I think there was a lot more serving. than there is today, and it just needs to change. Well, we've run out of time, Chris. How can people get a hold of you? Because I'm excited what you're doing.
Yeah, best way, just look me up on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn primarily. I'm also on Instagram, but mainly LinkedIn, Facebook. Also, just go to chrisborja.com. It's my first and last name, CHRISBORJA, chrisborja.com. I have all of my links on there. You connect with me, follow me on social, and I'd love to just stay in touch and reach out and love to connect.
That's awesome. And you have a free assessment too, as well.
Yeah, actually created a networking IQ assessment. So networking is one of those skills that we're all expected to know how to do, but few were ever taught how to do it. And even people that have learned how to do it and do it well, they don't have a process that can help the next person get there because they're already comfortable. And comfort's not a great indicator of success in networking. So we broke it down into 7 specific steps. And by people taking this assessment, it gives them a breakdown of where they stand in each of those 7 steps to make it a faster journey to improve on those things and get the results they want from networking and building relationship and building community. So that's actually a link on my website, so chrisborja.com, and then they can take that networking IQ score assessment.
In the book, you have a book. What's the name of the book?
Networking Essentials for Success is the name of the book. And it also has the 7 steps in there. So 7 steps to accomplish your goals through authentic relationships and connected communities.
A big fan of what you're doing. I want to thank you for being on. I do want to bring you back because there's more we can delve into and get updates on what you're doing, because I think this message needs to be spread more and more. And part of the way is through my podcast. And I want to thank everybody for listening. As I always say at the end of my podcast, listen to Chris over again. If it's 2 or 3 times, there's so many free nuggets he's given you that can make you thousands of dollars. Seriously, make you thousands, because it's done it for me, what he's talking about. And don't forget my TV show, which is Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. If you need a link for that, I can put that in the show notes and have you access to that. And please leave a comment on YouTube when you pop it up, when I pop Chris on YouTube, or on my podcast, leave a review. We'd love that, because I want these guests to get as much exposure as possible, because they're donating their time and their efforts to be able to get and help more people. With that being said, we'll see you all on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.